I woke up in his bed, but he wasn't there. For a brief second, my mind was blank. Just soft morning light, the warmth of the sheets, the scent of him on the pillow next to mine, and silence. That heavy kind of silence that only comes after something meaningful happens. I stretched my hand toward the other side of the bed, still warm but empty. The dip where his body had been was fresh, like he'd only just gotten up. Maybe he was in the shower, or maybe he'd gone to get us coffee like he used to, like he did when things between us were easy. But I knew better than to assume anything. It wasn't just any morning. And this wasn't just any bed. It was Ethan's. I'm 45 now, and that sentence still feels foreign to say aloud. Not because I mind aging, if anything, I've earned every year carved into my smile lines and etched into the soft fold of my neck, but because sometimes I still feel like that 30-year-old woman who first fell for Ethan at a wine tasting class in Seattle. He was wearing a blue sweater that hugged him just right, and he smelled like cedar and fresh laundry. His laugh was warm and easy, and I remember telling my best friend afterward, he laughs like someone who's not afraid to fall in love again. And he wasn't. Neither was I. We had 8 years together. 8 full years of slow mornings, road trips, Sunday pancakes, holiday traditions, and dancing barefoot in the kitchen after too much wine. Until one day, it all fell apart. Quietly. Subtly. Not with betrayal, not with a slam of a door or the sting of harsh words, but with the kind of exhaustion that builds over time. The pandemic didn't help. Nor did losing his dad. We stopped talking. Stopped reaching. Stopped trying. When I moved out, I didn't cry in front of him. I waited until I got to my sister's guest room and sobbed into a pillow like a child. It wasn't that I stopped loving him. I just didn't know how to love him like that anymore. It started with a text. 3 months ago, out of the blue, Ethan messaged me. Just one line. Do you remember the cherry pie diner outside Eugene? I stared at the screen for a full minute before my heart let itself ache a little. Of course I do, I replied. I went yesterday. They still overfill the whipped cream. That's how it began. Not a grand confession. Not a desperate plea. Just a memory. And suddenly, we were texting daily. About everything and nothing. He asked how my mom was doing after her hip surgery. I asked about the garden he used to fuss over like it was sacred. We talked like old friends, carefully. As if we both knew we were stepping onto thin ice, and any emotional weight could send us plunging through. And then one night, after 3 glasses of wine and the kind of loneliness that hits you around midnight, I said, I miss you sometimes. Not all of it. But some of it. He replied, Me too. Maybe we should talk about it. In person. He invited me over. Just dinner. Nothing more. I wore a soft navy blouse and the earrings he gave me for our 4th anniversary. I told myself it wasn't a date, but when I saw the way he looked at me across the table, like he used to when he thought I wasn't paying attention, I knew it wasn't just dinner either. We didn't talk about the breakup. Not directly. But in between conversations about work, our nieces, the new bakery that opened downtown, there were pauses. Long, silent spaces filled with meaning we were both too afraid to touch. After dinner, he made coffee. I stood in the doorway of the kitchen and watched him, familiar and foreign at the same time. His hair was slightly grayer, but his hands still moved the same way. I don't know why you invited me tonight, I finally said. He looked at me. Just looked. And then said, because I missed hearing your laugh. And I wanted to remember how it felt to sit across from you. My chest tightened. I didn't say anything. Neither did he. That night, I stayed. And now here I was, in his bed. Alone. The room still smelled like the candles I used to light in our old home. lavender and sandalwood. His sweater was draped over the armchair, and his guitar leaned against the wall, untouched but present, like me. I wrapped the sheet around myself and stepped out, looking for signs of where he'd gone. The apartment was quiet. A coffee cup on the counter, still steaming. My favorite mug. He remembered. There was a note next to it. Back in 10. Don't leave. E. I exhaled slowly. That silly little message held more weight than I could explain. Don't leave. Maybe we were both finally ready to stay. And I hadn't been in it for nearly a year. When he came back, he was holding a paper bag and looking at me like he was trying not to hope too hard. I was sitting at the table in one of his old flannel shirts, sipping coffee, pretending like my heart wasn't doing somersaults. Bagels, he said. Still remember your favorite? I smiled. Cinnamon raisin with honey almond cream cheese. He looked relieved. Got it right. We ate quietly for a few minutes. Then I said the thing that had been lodged in my throat since last night. Was this a one-time thing? Ethan put his coffee down. Do you want it to be? I shook my head, honest. I don't know what I want. I just know being next to you last night didn't feel wrong. He reached across the table, his fingers brushing mine. I've been thinking about you every day, he said. Even when I didn't want to. Even when I was angry. But time, it softened everything. It made me remember what we were, not just how we ended. I felt my eyes sting. I'm not who I was. Neither am I, he said. Maybe that's why we have a chance now. Because we're not going back. We're starting from here. It wasn't perfect. We didn't jump back into things like no time had passed. We made mistakes. I flinched when he reached for my hand in public the first time. He pulled away once when I brought up the past. There were tears. Long silences. Nights we both slept facing opposite sides of the bed. But there were also little moments that built something new. He came to my sister's birthday party and remembered the names of all my nephews. I visited his mom and helped her sort through his dad's old vinyl records. We started taking long walks again, no destination, no agenda. Just us. We kissed slower now. Like people who knew how easy it was to lose each other. And we held on longer. Like we were afraid letting go might break something again. 2 weeks later, I woke up in his bed again. This time, he was there. His arms around me, his breath warm on the back of my neck, the rhythm of his chest rising and falling like a lullaby. I stayed still for a long time, just memorizing the feeling. When he finally stirred, he whispered, "You stayed." I turned in his arms, smiled sleepily, and whispered back, "You asked me to." He kissed me, softly, slowly. Not like someone trying to rekindle an old flame. But like someone who wanted to build something new from the ashes. And for the first time in a long while, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I wasn't lost anymore.